Welcome to Scary Plug-In, where ordinary nights turn into real-life nightmares. Dorm rooms, dark hallways, strangers in disguise. These stories aren't just creepy. They'll make you question how safe you really are. Turn off the lights, put in your headphones, and let's begin. It started like any ordinary morning in college. You know that moment when you're half asleep, just drifting between dream and reality. That's where I was, until I felt the strangest pressure on my neck. At first, I thought it was just the weight of my blanket, or maybe I was still dreaming. But then no, it was real. Someone's hand was pressed against my throat, and when I opened my eyes, I saw her, my roommate, sitting on the edge of my bed, completely still, completely silent, her eyes wide and unblinking. Her hand just resting there right against my skin. The room was dim, only the weak glow of the streetlight sneaking through the blinds. But I could see enough. I could see the way she stared at me, as if she wasn't really looking at me. But through me, I froze. My heart started pounding so loud I was afraid she'd hear it. You know, when every instinct in your body is screaming, don't move, don't breathe, don't do anything. That's what it felt like. I managed to whisper, "Hey, are you okay?" Nothing, no reaction, not even a blink. The silence in the room was unbearable. No cars outside, no dorm chatter, just that eerie stillness. And her hand cold, slightly trembling, pressing into my neck like she was testing if I was alive. And then slowly, almost too slowly to notice, she pulled her hand away. She stood up, not saying a word, and walked back to her bed. She climbed in, turned to face the wall, and went back to sleep. As if nothing had ever happened. I didn't sleep a single second after that. I couldn't. When the sun finally rose, I packed my bag and left for class like normal. But inside I was shaken to my core. What had just happened? Maybe she was sleepwalking. Maybe it was just some weird dream behavior. I tried to rationalize it, but that image of her face, those wide, empty eyes, kept replaying in my head. A few days passed. Things felt normal again. I almost convinced myself it was a one-time thing. Until it happened again. This time I woke up not because of her hand, but because I felt the bed dip. You know that feeling when someone sits down next to you? The mattress creaks, the weight shifts. I opened my eyes just enough to see her. Same place, same posture, sitting on the edge of my bed, watching. I tried to stay still, pretending to sleep. But then I heard it, her breathing, slow, shaky, like she was holding back something. A laugh, a cry, I don't even know. And just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, she reached out again. Her fingers hovered over my throat, but this time she didn't touch me. She just stayed like that, hand hanging in the air, frozen. Minutes passed. Or maybe it was seconds, I couldn't tell. Time stopped making sense. Finally, she dropped her hand and stood up, slipping back into her own bed without a word. That was it for me. I started leaving campus on weekends, visiting my parents just to get away from her. And every time I came back, there was this uneasiness, like my dorm wasn't mine anymore, like I was a guest in a stranger's house. But the strangest part, during the day she acted completely normal, friendly even. She'd laugh, talk about classes, ask me about my weekend. There was never a sign of what she did at night. Until one weekend when I came home early, I pushed open the dorm door, expecting the usual silence. But instead I found her sitting cross-legged on my bed. My bed. She jumped when I walked in, eyes wide like a kid caught stealing cookies. "Oh, I was just, waiting for you," she said. But the way she said it didn't sound right. And then, the longer I lived there, the more things I noticed. My personal stuff shifted. My drawers left slightly open. My journal placed in a different spot. Once I found one of my t-shirts stuffed under her pillow. I asked her about it once, casually. But she just smiled and said, "Oh, I must have picked it up by mistake." Mistake. Yeah, right. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted her. I asked her what she was doing on my bed. why she kept sitting there in the middle of the night. She didn't even flinch. She just tilted her head and said, "I don't remember doing that." Her tone was flat, too flat. She swore she was asleep, that she had no memory of it. But here's the thing. She started taking medication around that time. Little white pills in a bottle she kept hidden in her drawer. I only saw the label once, but it wasn't for anything like sleepwalking. And then I learned something that made my blood run cold. She had a previous roommate, one who left suddenly without warning. I never met her, never heard why she left, but the way people went quiet when I asked about it, let's just say it didn't feel right. I don't live in that dorm anymore. I don't see her. I don't talk to her. But even now, years later, I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night with that same heavy feeling on my chest, like someone's hand is pressing down on my throat. And every time, I swear, I see her face in the corner of my room, watching, waiting. For what? I don't know. Maybe for the night I don't wake up. Have you ever been alone in a school building after midnight? The kind of silence where you can hear your own heartbeat, where every creak in the wall sounds like footsteps closing in. That's where I was one night. A business building on campus, staying late to finish a project. It was supposed to be safe, empty. Just me, my laptop, and the sound of fingers tapping on keys. But the longer I stayed, the more I realized I wasn't alone. At first, it was just small things. A faint scratching sound, a thump somewhere above me. I told myself it was the old vents, or maybe a bird that got stuck. You know, the excuses you make to keep from freaking out. But then it got louder. The scratching turned into footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving directly above me. I froze. The ceiling lights hummed quietly, casting a pale glow over the empty hall. Everything looked normal, but I could hear it. The pacing, back and forth, and then silence, until one single step, right over me. I tilted my head back, staring at the speckled white ceiling tiles. For a second, I swore I saw one of them shift, just a fraction. My throat went dry. I packed up my laptop, trying to act calm, but my hands were shaking. And that's when I heard it. Tap, 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 like fingers drumming on plastic, right above my head. I wasn't staying a second longer. I shoved everything into my bag and hurried toward the hallway. The sound followed me. The ceiling above creaked, each step matching mine. I walked faster, so did it. I stopped, dead silent, and that's when I heard the most chilling thing I've ever experienced in my life. Breathing. It was faint, but I swear to you, I could hear someone breathing up there. I bolted for the nearest classroom, yanking the door shut behind me. My chest heaved as I tried to stay quiet, my ear pressed against the wood. That's when the door handle started to rattle. Metal scraping against metal, jerking up and down like someone was testing it, trying to force their way in. I backed away, my eyes fixed on the tiny glass window in the door. And then a shadow. Someone was standing on the other side. I couldn't make out their face. Just the outline of a head, motionless, pressed against the glass, watching. The rattling stopped, but the shadow didn't move. Minutes passed. My breathing was so loud I thought it would give me away. And then, footsteps again, this time moving down the hall, slow and steady. I cracked the door open just enough to peek out. The hallway was empty, but the ceiling, one of the tiles had been pushed aside. A black void gaped down at me. I wanted to run, but I knew I had to leave the building first. So I gathered my courage and slipped out of the classroom, hugging the wall as I made my way toward the stairwell. Halfway down the hall, I froze. He was there. A man, standing on the stairwell, one hand on the railing, his head tilted at an unnatural angle. His eyes locked on mine the second I looked up. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared, lips curled into the faintest smile. My stomach dropped. I turned and ran the other way, my footsteps echoing through the building. I didn't dare look back. I didn't want to know if he was following. By some miracle, I made it out the back exit and into the cold night air. But here's the thing. When I came back the next day, that ceiling tile, still pushed aside, and nobody ever gave me an explanation. No one admitted to being there. Sometimes I wonder, was he living up there? Crawling around the ceiling, waiting for someone to be alone. Or worse, what if he still is? Next time you're alone in a school building late at night, take a good look at the ceiling. Because maybe, just maybe, something's looking back at you. Schools are supposed to feel safe. Bright hallways, locked doors, teachers and students. But one night I learned just how wrong that assumption can be. It started on an ordinary weekday. Classes were over, most people had gone home, and the building was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels almost wrong, like the walls are holding their breath. I was leaving late after a club meeting, walking down the hallway toward the cafeteria doors, when I heard someone call out, "Hey, excuse me." I turned. A man was standing by the teacher's lounge. His shirt was tucked in, he wore a lanyard with an ID badge. He looked like a teacher, someone I hadn't seen before, but teachers come and go, right? He smiled at me, too wide, too quick, and asked, "Can you help me with something?" That should have been my first warning, because teachers don't usually ask students for help. Not like that, not after hours. But I didn't think much of it at the time. I said, "Sure." He motioned for me to follow. His steps were fast, but a little uneven. His shoes squeaked against the polished floor. We walked past the cafeteria and toward the parking lot doors. I remember noticing how empty everything was. No staff, no students, just me and him. And the whole time, he barely spoke. Instead, he kept glancing at me, like he was studying my reactions, like he was waiting for me to realize something wasn't right. My chest started to tighten. Something about him didn't feel normal. His ID badge hung crooked, and as the light hit it, I noticed something strange. The picture was upside down. At first I thought maybe it was just a mistake. But no, the name was printed backwards too. Who wears an ID like that? I slowed down, putting a little distance between us. "So, what do you need help with?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He stopped walking, just stopped mid-hallway. He turned to me with that same unsettling smile. "It's in the parking lot," he said. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "Come with me, just for a minute." And that's when I saw them. Through the glass doors of the parking lot, partly hidden behind the line of bushes, there were shadows. 2, maybe 3 figures crouched low like they were trying not to be seen. My stomach dropped. Every nerve in my body screamed run. I stumbled back, muttering, I just remembered I have to go," and turned to leave. His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist, tight, too tight. "Don't," he said softly. His grip was cold, clammy, like he hadn't touched sunlight in days. I yanked my arm free and ran. The sound of my shoes slapping against the tile echoed through the hall. My lungs burned as I sprinted, and behind me, I swear I heard footsteps. More than one pair. I didn't look back. I threw myself through the main entrance doors, nearly tripping on the threshold, and bolted across the courtyard. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. I didn't stop until I was off school grounds, hidden behind a row of houses. When I finally turned back, the parking lot was empty. The hallway was dark. He was gone. The next morning I went straight to the office. I described the man, the ID badge, everything. But here's the thing. No one like that worked at my school. No substitute, no new hire, nothing. There was never a teacher with that name. And when I asked if there were cameras in the hallways, they told me most of them weren't working that night. Convenient, right? To this day, I don't know what his plan was. Maybe he was going to lure me outside to those men waiting in the bushes. Maybe I was supposed to disappear that night. My name on a missing persons flyer taped to those very same school doors. Sometimes I lie awake and think about that smile. How calm he was. How sure he seemed that I would follow him. And the scariest part, what if he wasn't the only one? What if there are others? People slipping into schools, workplaces, anywhere safe, wearing fake IDs, fake smiles, waiting for someone naive enough to follow. Next time you see someone with an ID badge flipped upside down, don't ask questions. Don't go with them. Just run.